Hey. Sometimes live streaming isn't as easy as you think it is.
You're up here. Because the altars are taking Gucci stripes. And last time Jordan was gone, so we needed both of you. That's all. Okay. It's sinking in, slowly but surely.
You know, I did the alternate thing for what, 2 years? And it was always like, hey, what are we doing today?
Yeah. Yeah, and when Kate got off, that moved you from the alternate to this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's on
I know we
the
were remote so long.
Yeah,
I forgot to send out his follow-up email, but it's on the packet.
the remote. It is, but this, I like this way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Than the remote. So quiet.
Yeah.
I have a question as an alternate. Am I allowed to ask stuff?
Yeah.
Or participate?
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I was curious.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's all the same stuff, just not.
It's just the
That makes total
voting.
sense. I was
Yeah.
It's even easier.
Thanks.
Less
Yeah,
pressure.
And before, we used to have them sit up here, but I think it confused the
Yeah.
public when we voted because it's,
Wait, what did that for? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying when I was an alternate, I used to always sat at the end.
Oh, so I'm just kidding.
And then there was a lower table, they added that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it makes it, I think, better for the public.
Oh,
Because then
more
they're,
ideas.
Makes sense.
because then all of a sudden, if there's a yes or a no vote, they're not looking at, well, like, why
Wait a
did that one?
Right, why didn't you vote? Yeah,
Especially if
This
they're
way.
participating.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Plus the kids' table's cooler, so I'm cool with that.
And we actually just started doing it that way because I felt that, yeah.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It made it look like, I don't know, like Chuck.
Right.
Absolutely.
We got rid of the plastic table too, I noticed. We used to have that plastic table there.
Yeah, when we did like work sessions, there was a couple plastic tables, wasn't there?
There might still be.
They might still be
Mine's
doing
on,
it.
yeah.
But they even use them sometimes for our meetings. So I don't think they have.
Well, that's when we would do a work session, we'd sit around those tables.
Yeah. It's been what, 2
What-
years?
Yeah, I
Year
know.
and a half.
So when was the last time you were in the building?
Me?
Yeah.
COVID, March 2020.
Okay, so I think that cabin trio over there is one of the last things that Bill did before he closed the shop in
Right,
there.
yeah.
And did such a wonderful job and makes it a lot more efficient.
Oh, it's past
Having the
6.
sink.
Yeah.
If we don't mind waiting just a couple more minutes, Andy and Carmen are trying to join us
Okay.
here. So if that's all right.
Yeah, we need them.
Yeah, it's nice to have, especially Carmen. Mhm. I talked to her about it. Normally Joe would attend, but I'm going. Oh, there's Andy.
So the guy is missing. The other girl. Who's the other one? Doesn't make a difference.
They went through the exam and the efficiency.
Still.
Yeah, no. This was supposed to. All of this stuff. So everybody's had a chance to see it.
Oh, there's Andy.
There's Andy.
Oh, I think he hears, that's good.
Andy, have you heard from Carmen?
It's so big. Are you looking for Carmen?
Not sure. Good question. Andy, can you hear us? Okay, have you heard from Carmen? Okay, she joining?
I did get a text from her. I haven't had an update from the text we got that she's going to be likely delayed. Did you get that text, Jared?
I did not because I replaced my work phone in my girlfriend's car, so.
Ah, okay. Um, what she texted is that she's at the ER with her son. It's okay. He's getting some X-rays. They're hoping everything's okay, but she's getting some X-rays for her son, and she's likely going to be delayed if she's able to join at all. She said if the planning commission has any questions, for her to just let us know or text her, and she'll try to respond or jump on if she can.
Okay, well,
Okay.
thank you for that update.
And I'm glad to help facilitate that, Jared. Since I'm on this end, be happy to facilitate that if we get to that point.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll start. I'll call to order the regular planning commission meeting for Wednesday, May 4th, 2020. And can we do a roll call?
Cindy Olson,
Here.
Don Reimer, Jordan Hudson,
Here.
Chuck Howard,
Here.
Ursula Kusluwicki, Ken Slaymaker.
Here.
Tracy Stokes.
Here. Okay, first thing is approval of the minutes for the date, April 20th, 2022.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, yay? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, no votes. Then we have the public comment period where if we have somebody that wants to make a public comment that's not on the agenda. We don't have anybody today.
The only public comment sign up is in regards to the conditional use.
So, okay. Okay, now we'll go into the public hearing. It's a continuation of a public hearing on the conditional use permit for the rafting use at 1743 Minor Street, and the time is 6:07. Okay, we'll start with staff report.
All right, well, thank you very much. Before you this evening is a continuation of the conditional use permit for rafting use at 1743 Minor Street. I have an updated report here. At the last meeting on April 20th, the Planning Commission heard testimony from the applicant and reviewed their documentation and asked for 3 additional items. Predominantly, one, it was a site plan. Second was the long-term lease reflecting landowner's permission at a specific location to store or park any business-related vehicles off-site. And then the third was a plan that indicated the flow and staging of the business and the vehicles associated with it. So a flow plan, more or less. So since that time, staff has talked with the petitioner and has received a number of documents. The petitioner is no longer proposing to have an enclosed trailer on the southern end of the site, as prior documentation indicated, and instead intends to use the enclosed fenced-in area as their storage area and in the building. They did submit a flow plan, which is entitled "A Typical Day at Mile High Rafting," and there's a couple options in there, but both options do take into account a trailer lot, which is good. The only issue with it is located just inside the city, and it is residentially zoned. Vans and commercial uses are not allowed on a residentially zoned property. So there is that issue with the flow plan. Conformance with the comprehensive plan. We talked about this a little bit last time, and the tourism related uses, as denoted in the comp plan, lists several uses: museums, rafting, biking. And those are in the downtown master plan. And the downtown master plan points to a number of different locations for those potential uses. And it basically, in staff's opinion, it's that those areas are tourism related, but they don't always necessarily have to include each one of those items. Some might be better suited for rafting, others might be better suited for the bicycle rental shop, which is being proposed as well, which is in keeping with the plan and with the zoning of the property as well. but staff is concerned about the rafting use and predominantly about the parking and the turnaround in that location. So to continue, zoning, as I mentioned, are concerned in regards to the offsite trailer storage lot. And staff is also still concerned about the potential for nuisances. We do have a number of residential parcels to the east and residential parking that is associated with that area. Staff did take a look closer at the parking in correlation with the site plan. So the site plan indicates 12 parking spaces. The code requires a minimum of 8. That is 2 for the apartments, 6 for the retail / rafting use. It's staff's opinion though that the code envisioned a larger building for rafting use be associated with the rafting use. And because this is a conditional use permit application, Planning Commission, City Council can take a bit of a different look. We can certainly, we have to look at the code, absolutely, but we can also take a practical look at it and see if we feel that there is enough parking there for the use. The conditional use permit has 3 different sections that are required to be reviewed for compliance with those 3 conditions. The proposed use conforms with all requirements of this article. It's staff's opinion that it does not, because the trailer lot, the condition of that lot being residential and commercial use is not being allowed on residences. And then the concern about parking and the use not being able to be entirely enclosed on the site or utilized on the site. And the second one, as I mentioned, we already talked about the comprehensive plan. And then the third item, which is focuses on impacts to the surrounding properties. So the parking layouts, as shown on the site plan, as I mentioned, indicates 12 parking spaces. A couple items, where staff worked with the petitioner to get them a document to work with, and I think they've done a pretty good job of outlining the parking locations. The only downfall to it is that the existing parking shown on the plan for the other side of the parking lot wasn't quite right. After the sidewalk was put in, those parking spaces shifted a little bit to the south, and that created an issue with the dimension of the drive aisle and then the parking spaces, and that area being a touch shorter. It's about 4 feet or so, I believe, shorter than code allows for. So I haven't had the time to work with the petitioner on reorienting some of those spaces or working on that site plan, as we did have a bit of a rush time frame. But I did just want to let you know of that comment. In the event that, yes, therefore staff is recommending denial of this item. In the event though that the Planning Commission does wish to recommend approval, we do have some draft conditions outlined at the end of the staff report as well. With that, I'd like to invite the petitioner up for their comments.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
I'm Faith Costello Wolf. Address is 243 Redview Trail in Idaho Springs.
What was it? 21.
Oh, okay.
Dan Costello, 243 Ridgeview Trail, Idaho Springs.
Okay, can you both raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
came here ready to say something else, but I want to point out that we provided a lease for our house, which was what our plan was. And Danny had then gotten another friend to give us another lease, which we thought was just doubling what, you know, we could have and giving us more potential for places to park things during the day. So that was the intention of the second lease, was not to use that for storage necessarily overnight or anything. It was just during the day. I guess what I really want to say is Mama Lab Rafting has been in business for 22 years now in Idaho Springs. And Danny and his business partner took it over. This will be their 5th season. And our whole, since Danny and Matt, and I guess me, because Danny and I were married in the meantime, have taken it over, we have really made it a family-run business. Our kids run the office, you know, like this is our livelihood. This is our life. And we have really tried very hard to meet everything that you guys want so that we can bring our business down here, because that was actually our goal from day one. Danny and I, for our honeymoon, went to Cabo San Lucas. And one of the things that we noticed there was if somebody was offering you something, hey, you want to go fishing? If you've ever been there, like they're advertising everything, right? You want to go fishing? You want to do this? You want to do that? No, I don't want to go fishing, but you know what I do want to do? I want to find some really good fish tacos. They will walk you down to their friend's place and get you fish tacos. And we wanted to bring that back here. And so that's what we've done with our business. Every single bus trip that goes by, we point out our favorite places to eat, to stop. Every time we go down the river, hey, you smell that? It's smoking yards, you know? And that has been our goal, is to bring people here, but we can't do that when we're way out in Dumont. We can just hope that when people are hungry at the end of their trip, that they're gonna come into Idaho Springs. And so we've been wanting to bring it here for quite a while. And then we were kind of forced to by our lease being ending. And so when we started looking for another place, we wanted to be here. We wanted to be downtown. And Danny has spent a year and a half looking for that place. And when we found this, we thought it was perfect. It's right on the creek. You know, it's right in downtown. And that's what we want, is to have our family learn to be a part of the community like me and Danny were. Because although Danny and I were only married 2 years ago, we grew up in the same small town in Wisconsin. And that's where the mentality comes from. When you hear Danny saying things like, oh, I talked to so-and-so and he said we can park there. Because that's how we grew up. Really, we did, you know? And that's why we like Idaho Springs. And so all I can do is hope that you guys decide to keep us here.
So I just handed Jared another lease. This time it's a commercial property over next to Smoking Yards. Cam has agreed to lease us long-term the parking lot there. I think it butts up to the Argo Hotel. That it's the far west side. It's got more gravel on it than the other side, so it's directly behind Eric's Asian Cafe. He's got plans, as I'm sure you all know, to put up a hotel 120 feet long by, I think he said 60 feet wide. Anyway, he seems to think he's got enough room for us, at least for the moment, and after they build a hotel as well, because it's not going to take up the whole space. So he seems to think that we could have a long-term home there for our boats, our buses, our vans, all that kind of thing, which is great, you know. So that takes care of the piece of like where the guides are going to park, where the, you know, all that really. So effectively at this point, all we would be doing is trying to utilize so the whole bike company, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with yet, came up as an idea because Santiago, he didn't want to lease the thing to me for just 3 or 4 months out of the year, right? He's like, no, I want something in there all the time, so.
Well, and we thought that was best too, you know, who wants to rent a space? We've got a lot of empty spaces here in Idaho Springs. You don't want to leave a space empty for a large part of the year, you know?
Exactly. So we started, trying to find some things that would work there, and we've settled on bike rental and e-bike rental, which is going to work out well. But the idea here, because rafting doesn't, we're a small company, right? So we don't make a ton of money. And the idea here was to try and split rent, right? Instead of paying the whole, for a rafting company to pay $25,000 in rent when you're not operating the whole time, right? It's just painful. I'm not saying it can't be done, but at the end of the day, this really isn't a hobby, as she touched on. This is like what we are trying to do to get ahead. So now, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to be in a situation where, now I'm, instead of splitting a rent and doing something economical to get ahead, I'm going to be paying another $25,000. So instead of $22,000 or $24,000, I'm going to be at like $60,000 just to maintain storefronts, right? Needless to say, not that my economic problems are really a factor here, but it would be great if, again, like our rafting season is going to be pretty much June 1st, like August 1st, August 7th, like we say the 14th, but whether we got water or not is another question. So regardless, you're still looking at a business that's going to operate there for 2.5 months out of the whole season, right? And I know it could be a little cramped. There's going to be a lot of people, but I think it's enough space to handle it. I know that the van turning around is, potentially an issue, but I think that I've been in a lot of sticky situations with the van and trailer, smaller than that lot, and it's just not one of them. I'm sure that we can pull the van into a parking spot, load the van, and then it's called a Y turn, just back out the other way. And it's really gonna be easy. Like there are a lot of problems with running a rafting company, and figuring out how to do a Y turn in that parking lot is not one of them. So we've got the parking situation figured out as far as guides and storage. We've got a plan as far as how to operate out here that I think makes a lot of sense. And so we would love to be able to bring our rafters in here and make it all happen. So I hope we've satisfied your concerns, and they were legitimate concerns, things that we don't incorporated Lawson have to think about.
Can you review the changes that you did, like with the parking, because now you said you're moving the one trailer and where you're gonna have the.
So yeah, I
Covered
sat
part.
down with Jared and we went over the survey that he sent me, which is actually for here, but it includes that property. And he said that he was speculating that the trailer was actually over part of the property line. That is not our trailer. We did not put it there. We're not responsible for the trailer. I have no idea.
Whose trailer is it?
It's a wonderful question. I'm sorry, I do
No
not have an
idea.
answer for that at this time.
So tell me about it. It's abandoned.
So
We can investigate.
I couldn't find the
just
actual inside point. If you see the property line kind of jags in a little bit there. You see that, like there's a grass area and like right here it jags in. And that's where we believe the trailer is over there somewhere, but we can't find that post. We can find the two posts that were put in that are on the sidewalk. But that other one isn't findable, so, but we were willing to say, we probably think that trailer is on there. And so we're just not, we don't want to cause problems, so we're just not gonna put it there. But then, yeah, the other parking spots are up to code, it's 12 feet by, or nine by 18, that's what it is. And So yeah, I was able to measure those out and that's how many spots we can get. The resident has a spot that we will be marking specifically for the resident so that nobody can park there. Hopefully we won't have any issue. She's not concerned. So.
Yeah, although you are calling for 2 spots for that.
Yeah.
There is only
The-
one person who's.
The code calls for 2 spots,
Yes.
like you do on the, for signage,
Yeah.
et cetera.
For sure.
Yeah, that's on that. So, but yeah,
She is single and not planning on having any roommates. So we do have that going for us.
Where's the enclosed area and stuff? I mean,
it's right here.
right where?
Map right here.
The fence
I'm
and
upside
platform.
down.
Survey. It says,
Oh.
on my glasses, fence, platform.
So how are your customers getting there?
They're walking along there's a walkway.
Behind the parked cars?
In front of the park
In
cars.
front of the park cars this way. There's a
There's-
walkway here.
There's another map I drew a while back that had the lines on it. We also have, so right now, that screen opens like up into the parking area. And our intention, if you allow it, is that we're gonna go on the side closest to the building and we're just gonna install a gate there. So our customers can walk right in front of all the cars. There's, I haven't measured it, but it seems sidewalk sized.
Oh, I looked over there. I thought it dropped off down to down below. There's the steps.
It
Oh, but
does,
there's enough-
but there's
There's
But-
enough walkway there?
yeah,
I
there's
didn't know.
cement curbs or parking,
Yeah.
I don't know what
The car, the wheel stops.
Yeah, wheel stops. So there's, yeah, the wheel
There's a
stops.
small, there's a
Okay.
small, it's,
I didn't pay
I don't know
attention.
what the dimension is on it.
I'm not positive it's wheelchair accessible, but
We don't-
we don't typically have people in wheelchairs. And if we did, we would
We
just
have.
figure out how to set them up over there. So it won't be an issue.
It was wide enough to ride my bike on earlier this afternoon, the exact spot they're talking about.
In between it, yeah. I
I wouldn't check
walked
it out.
over and looked and I thought it just dropped off.
It does drop off,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, at the end there, for sure. Yeah, but so the gate, we thought we'd funnel the people in and we'll just have some benches there. We'll have our wetsuits hanging on racks
Inside.
inside the screen area,
Yeah.
so we're not even gonna pull them out, like. So we'll just have them come in, get them dressed up, walk them over to the van, get them in the van, and we'll be on our way.
And the screen here, what's the screening made out of? Is it like a?
It's
lumber.
the existing
It's a
fence
privacy
and,
fence.
it's the dumpster enclosure is what they're referring to, the existing dumpster enclosure.
Oh, that's gonna be the.
Yeah, I think it's 19 by 8.
This
No,
dumpster
on the report.
enclosure.
It doesn't
Oh, on
say
the
on here.
report.
I forgot
Oh,
to
okay.
write it on the map, but it's in
There
the
we go.
report or the email that I sent you. It's
Oh, my God.
20,
It's 19 by 8.
is that what it is?
19.3 inches.
So the vans, are they approximately the same size as the ones that are across the creek?
No, they're
No,
slightly
smaller.
smaller than that. It's like a standard looking van.
Like maybe a Econoline 350?
That's exactly what it is, actually. We're having a new transmission put in it as we speak. Yeah, I know.
Question, so let's just wait on it.
Turns out those heavy duty vans for hauling 15 people have a Mustang transmission in them.
Is there anything else more in your presentation that changed, that information you wanted to give us?
The trailer changed, the parking changed.
Did you want to go over a little bit more about your floor plan or the,
Right,
apologize for the day and the,
Do that.
Oh, certainly. So now, like, instead of Carla's home over at 406 Soda Creek, it's just gonna be the exact same plan, but it's gonna be happening out of our commercial space over behind Eric's Asian food. There's it's a because of the connected lots, we'll be able to drive our vans in with trailers on them, or we could even like use buses out of that spot if we brought the people back to it. Anyway, it's just, there's gonna be no turning around. It's just gonna be like driving forward the whole time because he's got 2 exits, like his own road.
So yeah,
Um,
the customers would load up here, so the guys would park over there in the mornings and they would load up, you know, we have a way of communicating how many boats we need for which trip, so they can set up their whole day, decide which guys are doing what. And then we would have a van come over, pick up the people, you know, whoever drove the van would probably help gear people up and stuff too. Take them over to there, hook up the trailer, or if we can find a way to purchase more vans, the vans would just, the trailer with the rafts on it would meet at whatever we're putting in at. So typically it's Chicago Creek. I don't, you know that.
And
you know
Upper
that
Dumont.
area, and Upper
Those are the 2
Dumont,
typically we use, or
Yeah.
Lawson. I mean, that's the advanced section.
yeah, and
Or
water level.
lower water, we'll be doing Lower Canyon as well, so.
Drop them off here. Have them come in, see their pictures,
Mhm.
buy some retail. And hopefully send them down to shop at more retail and go eat. They're always hungry when they're done. I don't know that we brought up the last time that we have, because the season is longer on the Arkansas River. And we, have a location there where they've let us set up and, just like in their huge parking lot, it's a restaurant. And not a single person ever left without eating there.
Don't you see the cars staying there parked
Hmm?
because of exactly what you're saying? You're not gonna be turning the cars around. The cars are that pull in first are gonna stay there, like you said, because they're gonna stay parked there. It's free.
Well,
paid
we'll
parking
we'll
and
tell
all the
them they
items
have to
free.
leave at the end of their trip. We won't let them hang around because we're gonna need that space for other people.
Well, that's what I mean, but
Yeah.
how can you tell them they have to leave? Maybe,
I just tell them, they do what I tell them. Trust me. They do what I tell them. That's why, like, I can drive traffic to anybody in town. Like, they really do what we tell them. When we had coupons with Smoking or with Tommy Knocker, they all went there. Then Steve had enough business, didn't want to give out coupons anymore, and suddenly Mountain Prime and Azteca, they were all getting hit with a lot more business, so.
and then,
They really do
okay,
what
so
you tell
all your parking spots are filled up. What if somebody, same with when they rent a bike, somebody's gonna come in, rent a bike, get on the bike and leave the car parked there. That's
So
gonna
what
take up
happens
some
to
of
the
the
spot
parking.
over here?
Well,
They're
yeah.
paid parking and people
Okay.
rotate their cars because they're
Okay.
paying for parking, but you're gonna have free parking there. So I'm gonna come rent from you, I'm gonna rent a bike and I'm gonna
Right.
go cruise around town. I'm leaving my car there.
Sure.
Okay, so you don't have any parking spots then for the rafters that are coming in.
Well, there's 8 parking spots there. We were told we needed enough for the thing that needed the most. And we actually have 12 spots.
Yeah, I mean, additional
So-
parking, you know, it's only, I don't know, is it a full block to free parking that goes all the way down to the
Hot spring.
Hot spring, so I mean, there's plenty of parking around, you know, and I would assume that people will probably, you know, overflow will end up probably paying in the lot or something.
I don't even know if we're gonna have
Yeah, I
overflow. I
mean-
think we've got 12 parking spots, you know,
Right,
and we need 8.
And you only have
And
12
that's on the
people.
high end.
Only 12 people on a trip then?
well, they assume that there's, wasn't it 3.5 people per car, or I don't
What's-
remember the number you gave us.
Well, I think we talked about possibly assuming 3, but that's also, you know, I don't know what your experience is either.
Our experience is that the cars are packed, like usually like 4 or 5 people to a car. A lot of times they come up in their own vans, especially if it's like a bachelor party or something like that, you know, they're gonna all be together. So
So
they typically pack up pretty good though.
the other item I do need to work with you on is, you know, if it does move forward, as I mentioned, technically the drive aisle is a little narrow. So we would have to work on reorienting those spaces. It might, you know, I don't know if we end up, you know, with the 12 as final, or if it ends up with 1 less. We do also need to work on accessible spaces, or well, one would be the code. So, you know, getting an area hashed off for, you know, for an accessible space.
You mean a handicap space?
Yeah.
That is required. And then okay, it's not meeting the Depth part, is that what it is?
No, it's it.
So, yeah, in the field, I measured, used a wheel, and the drive aisle was a little narrower by about 4 feet than code. So that's what I would, as I mentioned, if you do recommend approval and city council approves it, then I would say that that'd be a condition of finalizing that site plan to make sure that it does comply with code and get those parking spaces the way it would be. Way it would need.
Okay, is that it for presentation?
So
Now we'll go to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Do we? Okay. Okay.
Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Dan Smith. My address is 1714 Minor Street, right across the street.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I do. I came here in support of the business. I lived here this September will be 5 years. I've fallen in love with the city. I've never lived like this in my entire life. I'm on a main street like this, but I'm watching the city grow. I love the way it's growing. And if you guys have been a planning commission for a long time, first time I've ever been here other than paying my bills, by the way, my water bill. But I love what's going on in the city. I've watched Jiggy's, and I've met Santiago, the owner of the building. I've watched Jiggy's stand empty for years. And I remember Jiggy's as a viable business. It's going to kind of date me a little bit, a long time ago. So I love the idea they're bringing a bike business, an electric bike business in. I'm probably going to be their first customer. But the rafting will help support the bike business too. And I love seeing that idea. I'm all for what they're doing. As far as the parking is concerned, I've offered them some parking behind my house too, up next to my barn. And for their own personal vehicles or even overflow. When they have the business going on, June, July, August, I'll be here and there. I travel a lot, so I free up parking spaces. But I have roughly 6 spaces where I stack cars behind my house. And they're welcome to use my spaces. So that's kind of what I'm here for. If there's some overflow, I want them to, not have vehicles on the street where they're going to get tickets or whatever. So I would love to see the businesses go forward, including the rafting business. Like organizing the rafting business for this location would be an advantage for them as far as economics are concerned, as well as, the community, bringing more people into the center of the community. Any questions?
Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Good. That was easy. I've never
you.
done that before.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Chair, there are none. No more.
No working.
No one on Zoom.
No, okay. Okay, now we'll go to commissioners' questions for staff and the applicant. Who wants to start?
I will.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'd just like to clarify.
Do you want us to go back up there?
Yeah, probably.
It's up to the chair.
Yeah,
You don't mind.
We're gonna have to-
yeah, it's easier to communicate, yeah,
Very sure.
yeah. And for anybody that's listening, it's probably looks a little more organized.
So here's the thing, I just want to clarify before I make this statement that you mentioned that you spoke to the gentleman who's in the process of erecting the hotel.
Mhm.
Okay, so The challenge I see with that is that, and I'm saying this in the nicest way I can, because I mean no personal affront to it. We have lay people, which would be yourself. In other words, nobody coming through this process would ever be expected to have our level of experience and know all this stuff, because you can't possibly, this is years of history here. So nobody would expect you to know that. And similarly, we would not expect that gentleman to know that either. So my concern is, because he's pre-construction, he may not fully have a comprehension of the requirements that will come to him on that end. In other words, hypothetically, he's saying, yeah, it looks like we have enough room. What happens if you get into a formal agreement and all of a sudden he goes through the same process to go ahead and erect that building and create that business, and finds that based on the current set of requirements, those requirements exceed what he anticipated in his mind he needed for parking for the size facility he's building?
He has plans for underground parking there, so I think he's thought it pretty well through, but from my understanding, and I don't know when he's going to, maybe you know better timeline on this, but I do not know when he's planning to start, but I didn't get the impression that it was before the fall. So, in the short term, like this year, we definitely for this season have an option. And again, what I'm hoping is that we get that parking ramp built. So I don't know how, I don't know anything about it other than it's been proposed and there's people talking and things. So, but hopefully that'll happen. Hopefully Mary Jane will build her parking ramp, and then I'm gonna come back to you guys and be like, hey, how about if we get those 3 spots on the side of the thing and we just park a bus there? And you'll be like, yeah, there's plenty of parking. Why don't we do that? So,
Gotcha.
yeah, so I guess all I can say is we've got a plan for this year.
And
for
then
sure.
next year you would adjust that.
If we have to
yeah,
adjust it, again, I don't know what that's gonna look like, but I'll figure something.
Well, we have to keep in mind that on the recommendation of council, it has to be a long-term lease.
That's what's
Long-term,
concerning me.
yeah, long-term isn't 4 years. It isn't, the discussions I've had, long-term can be more like 5 to 10 years. We don't have Carmen on, but if you recall at the last one, her concern was that it had to be long-term. So you have a new agreement there, which we haven't all been able to see yet.
Sorry, if I could speak to that, we have a lease agreement for long-term storage at our
With yourself,
property
right,
with
I
ourselves,
understand that.
so.
Yep.
Really, although this is actually pretty ideal, we don't need all that to accomplish what we're trying to do here. So, I've got more tricks in my pocket, but I did not talk to Brian Blackwell about his filling station on the east end of town. I know that we couldn't store things inside there, but he's got gas pumps that don't work, right? That is a commercial situation that we could, I bet I could pay him enough to let me park my trailers there for a couple hours a day, right? So
The fact is we gave you what you asked for. You wanted a long-term lease. You said it could be on our property, and we provided you with that. We're just showing you the other options and how we're willing to, keep trying to work to improve our business as well as improve the situation for everyone else. So, we could have just stopped with the lease for our property. That was what you asked for. That's what we provided. But, Danny keeps talking to people and keeps working things out because people want to help us, they want us here.
Go ahead.
It's all I have. Okay.
yeah, so I guess this is a long-term lease, and if something that the council requires down the road changes that, I think that's, as you said, that's kind of beyond my control.
Yeah, we wouldn't, any of us know right now, this
Right.
second. It's just that's pre-building and it may alter
No,
what they perceive.
I
They
totally
have-
understand where you're coming from, and
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
But that
he may
lets
not
them-
be aware of that.
They still have their property
Right,
that they
to
can keep
fall back
driving
on.
back and
Sure.
forth from. It's just, it's not the ideal daily thing to drive back and forth from where you're at.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that.
How long is the lease that you have for this spot?
Well, how long, we haven't signed it. Jared told me that, we just needed
Well,
what was the word?
I hated to have them spend the money prior, so I'm glad that they drew something up. That was our conversation. And it states that, it's for term landlord, lease, initial tenant may renew the lease for 4 additional 1-month terms. Shall exercise such renewal option.
Oh, gotcha. So that's the in-town one. I meant the other long-term.
Oh, it's
Oh,
our-
you're on
It's
that.
their
We're not
own
going
property.
So
there.
unlimited.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
unlimited. It's
Gotcha.
unlimited, yeah.
So, and with that one, because I didn't know what's going on, our conversations have been for a long-term lease on that lot. But,
So this one's for 2022.
exactly, this is just for right now, but in September, I'm gonna wanna leave all my stuff exactly where it is. So that's kind of, well, and I wanted to wait and talk to you guys. So we locked it down.
My other question was for staff.
Yes.
Your determination was that they needed 8 parking spots and they've got 50% more of 12.
So the code requirement is that they needed 8.
Okay,
Our opinion was that the code, that we might need to take a look at the code. And if it was a permitted use, our hands would be tied. We'd have to absolutely just follow code as that minimum.
gotcha.
But because it's a conditional use permit, we are able to look at it in a different light. And that's what the comments are.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if the codes change where more parking is required due to the type of business,
If the
where does that leave them?
If the conditional use is approved,
It
then that
stays
runs
at
with the,
that.
yeah, so even, anything we would do with the code would be for future uses, for future requests.
Okay.
Yeah, the conditional use. So the conditional, how long does that run? Is that in forever or?
In perpetuity, yes. The only real way that there's 2 means of revoking a conditional use permit. One, if the use is what we would call abandoned for 2 years, then the city could take steps to revoke it. Or if a property owner came to the city and said, hey, we want to use this for something else. Can we get rid of that conditional use? And oftentimes they don't even truly revoke it. That might be a condition of a different conditional use, that the other one be revoked and replaced with whatever else they're requesting, and that's it. So those are your 2 primary ways of revocation.
So the conditional use stays with the property owner, even if the leasing parties
Correct.
leave it, it's still,
It runs with the land rather than with, the company or with even the property owner.
Right.
Because it could,
so then if the next company came in and wanted to do rafting,
they
the
would,
city would have to honor that conditional use with
Correct.
all those conditions, meaning the parking, the ADA parking, the screening, everything.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, any conditions that you place upon it would go into the future.
Could you also put new conditions in the future, or is it just?
It's hard to amend.
Okay.
Without the applicant, a new applicant, let's say, coming back to the city, asking for something, then the city could amend it.
Okay.
But typically the city can't really proactively go out once it's issued.
Okay.
So,
Can I get another clarification on that? So if we say we went with the alternate staff recommendation with all those listings, those would become conditions of the conditional use permit. And if they were ever violated, the permit would be withdrawn or revoked.
well, we would begin with code enforcement.
Right.
And then, yeah, I believe, if it did get egregious enough, they could put, it might be able to put the conditional use in jeopardy.
Okay, but all these conditions of no storing of boats, no living there, all that would be a part of the conditional use permit.
Well, that's what we were proposing. You
Gotcha.
can certainly.
Yeah,
add
that's what I'm saying, if we went with
conditions,
all
but-
those, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So that would prevent someone else from coming in and then storing all their boats there, and
Precisely.
gotcha, okay, that would protect the potential of that, prevent that.
That's the rationale behind,
Gotcha.
Current and future, potential users.
Gotcha.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Since we're talking about conditional uses and amending things down the road and whatnot. One thing that is nice about this location potentially, and would alleviate a lot of traffic and trips, is if you just simply let us put our boats in right there. It's a very, I mean, comparatively speaking, it's a very safe location because of the bend of the river. It's also a pretty forgiving riverbank as well. And if we did that, I could cut down on almost all of my dropping of trailers. The vans would come and go less, and it'd be just easier for everybody. And I understand that rafting companies did once upon a time put in across the river, which is not quite as ideal as our spot, but they did nonetheless do that for years. And so I'm just wondering if that is something that could ever be considered, simply because, I mean, obviously you're gonna approve us, but in that, just to make really everybody's life easier, we'd have less vans coming in and out, and you would have less people being in and out, and we would be able to not have as many people driving vans and buses, which would be great. Or I'm sorry, I keep saying buses, but vans is our plan here.
I guess
so.
my first thought is you'd have to have the storage space, and you don't have the space.
Well, we could, so in my mind, each one of these trips is a 5-boat trip, right? We could stack 5 boats inside the screened area, and that would not exceed the height of the structure. Or we could actually lay them on their sides, and then they definitely would not exceed. We could store them inside the screened area in between trips. Or during the day, they could just be down below the riverbank.
But how do you get them back? How would you get them back here?
Well.
You'd
we
have to have
could-
them on a trailer, you'd have to trailer them in, and there's not enough for the trailer in the.
If we
Boats
are
that go in.
running intermediate trips, we could simply take out right here. We could leave the boats right there because they put in further up, and then we wouldn't have to go to the park, which would take pressure off that situation. Instead of having to buy 2 more vans, we wouldn't need to do that either, which, just in fuel and care for the environment, we'd save, thousands of gallons.
Is it possible to always do that, or would that be a sometimes thing?
I mean, you could put in there any.
Well, I mean,
Not sure.
always go back upstream and then just take back out there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We could also, if it was an issue, we can, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, Fisher, I apologize.
It's possible to, if we didn't have enough going on to get boats down here, we could deflate a boat, roll it up, and just carry it into the lot as well, which it would take a little bit more time, but it's not a big issue, especially when you have raft guides standing around looking for things to do.
I think one of his questions is we keep saying that the put-ins change, but the only one that ever truly goes away is the one farther west. We moved down the creek as we go, and so Chicago Creek is always a thing.
Right. Until later in the year. Well, so when that disappears, then Chicago Creek becomes less, then more people start putting it at the park and thing. So, but I mean, yeah, understanding your concerns with the buses and the trailers, we would, I really think that would be the slickest way to do this whole thing. It would cut down on a lot of things that we're all concerned about.
I hate to say it, but I don't think we're there because you have to redo this whole site plan and everything like that.
Yeah.
So.
That's a down
I
road.
included,
But
I actually included it.
I did see that, but I have a question for Jared quick.
Yeah.
If this was to get approved with these conditions, they get the use permit,
can they add to it afterwards?
They'd have to come back for an amendment
Okay.
to planning commission, city council, just the same process. I did want to point out, and I haven't been able to find out, I know I've been asked what the rationale is, but I do know that the property across the river in their conditional use permit, it explicitly states that they cannot put in at this location. I don't know if it was because of there's only like federally approved locations, or if that's just local land use. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to find that out yet.
That is local land use, I can tell you that.
Okay.
Based on my knowledge with Colorado and all the permits I've purchased, it is just strictly a private or public-private land use thing.
And so, as I mentioned, though, I'm not sure what the rationale was, but I do know that the one located across the creek is not allowed to do so.
Okay. Commissioners, more questions?
I do, that's okay.
Yeah.
On point 3 on the following conditions that must be met, that the proposed use shouldn't result in impacts to adjacent properties. We've had 2 adjacent properties come by to speak that they're in support of it, and I don't know if that means it won't impact them, but they do seem in support of it. And I've also talked to a couple of other adjacent property owners that are in support of it, and perhaps are in support of it regardless of impact, but it seemed like something worth mentioning.
One other thing, so you guys wouldn't be parking any employee parking here, it'd all be at that other site.
Yes, sir.
So this would all just be for customers.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, the red one.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
We could probably have a planning commission cruise through the city or something.
Gosh, I'm just so concerned about that parking lot. I have a hard time, like tonight when I get my car and leave, to back out because it's diagonal. I back out and I pull up here and do a loop, and you have to be ready to do a big enough loop or tight enough loop to do it, to get out of there. I just don't see customers being able to do that. Or your vans, like you said, your vans are gonna have to be able to pull into a parking spot and back out.
Yeah, it's just I think it's called a.
I think your side's
That's a word.
easier doing that than
Oh, yeah, it's
Just
just.
because
a
yours are
wide
straight
fence,
in.
straight in than this side.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's-
definitely.
I think
Yeah.
our side
Yeah.
is easier than.
That's what I mean. I do too. I think your side is easier. And I guess my other concern is the enforcement in the parking. I mean, sure, the enforcement from your side of parking would be your customers. Like I said, you know, I'd be annoyed if I came in and now you told me to go move my car. It's like, no, I'm gonna go eat across the street and leave my car there.
Yeah.
But
But
that's-
you don't
that's your-
understand the like,
Well, so,
That's your, no, I
The
understand that
whole thing
that's
is-
your business deal.
yeah, and
I guess what I'm concerned about is that is reserved parking out there for staff parking. Who's gonna manage that, especially on weekends? And that's when you're gonna be your busiest, is on weekends, where they're not using it because those parking spots are gonna be empty. Where I'm almost thinking, shouldn't, and this was a suggestion, should the city turn around and put metered parking on those spots for
solve the
weekends
issue.
and holidays where this, when the city staff isn't using them? Where then it would open more parking for the city for, you know what I'm saying? What,
I think, if I'm not misunderstanding, that on the weekends or for cars that are not city hall employees, they have to pay to park here.
I don't think it's.
On the weekend.
I don't think so.
I don't know if,
I think they do, I think they have.
No, because it was somebody from council
But Zach,
there
Our
that,
enforcement officer enforces that, doesn't he? Doesn't he ticket?
I don't know
I
about the
see them park
weekends
there a
though.
lot.
you don't see people parking there because they're obeying the signs. That's what I mean, where I wonder if the city should look at it, making it paid parking, because it would help for all the businesses during the weekends and holidays where city hall is not being used. But how is that, are we adding to enforcement that they're gonna have to enforce that no parking there now because it's city staff on weekends? Or are you guys gonna be able to help manage that?
I mean,
Well, I mean, I can tell you this, running a rafting business is all orchestration, and we are constantly telling people, even in our, well, that lot was big, there weren't that many parking spots because of what we had going on. And so there was a lot of, hey, can you guys go and move there? Can you move there? And a lot of what we have on our website, when you check out, is you get an email with all sorts of things. Here's what you can wear, here's what you can't wear. Here's, where you can park, here's how to get there. Like the whole process is a real thing. And so telling people up front, at the end of your trip, we'll do it in a nice way, please, move on and leave space so you can park in the public spots, however we decide to word it. We also already plan on putting signs up that don't just say private parking, that say, it'll probably be for the bike shop, a little bit, parking only. And we have a camera out there that we can see from behind our desk that's already there. So, and we have children who like helping us, and I'm sure they'd be happy to tell us when somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do. But
So are you asking if you're asking us to just tell people not to park there, we could certainly.
yeah, well, I've just seen it, it's going to add to with ordinance officer or whoever is doing it on the weekends, if people aren't cooperating, where, there's times I've driven by and want to go downtown and there is no place to park, and it's like, dang, I'm just gonna pull in and park in the city parking lot.
Sure.
But no, you can't. I mean, that's why I think maybe the city should look at making that paid parking on those weekends and holidays, so it could be utilized more.
Yeah, extra revenue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and it's
That make more
because,
spots.
well, it really bothers them when you drive downtown and you cannot find a parking spot, especially on weekends,
Right.
4th of July, all those things.
Tell me about
And
it.
you can, yeah.
I live downtown. That's why I said it.
And you see that parking lot
Yeah.
wide open with parking, yeah.
I always eyeball it when I'm going by. Wish I could have been there.
We can certainly investigate the parking situation, paid, et cetera. I know that the signs out there currently talk about Monday through Friday being reserved, but we can look into, how that's approached.
Yeah.
So
It does say Monday through Friday right now?
currently it does.
Okay, I guess I had no, dang, so then I should go ahead and.
That's good to know.
So Jared, I have a question. When I went through all the initial stages of the early planning for bringing the paid parking in, there was discussion with the parking company that specific commercial entities could approach a relationship with the company to be able to provide ticket validation or some kind of validation process for their customers. Is that still on the table, and has any entity that you know of utilized that as a tool to, in other words, we're eating at the restaurant, our bill is $10, and then we bring it to the front desk and they somehow have a validation.
So we do not do a lot of that. I believe we worked with a couple of the overnight stay, locations in regards to that. But not typically with a restaurant or another use. Partially because, if you're parking for the restaurant use, that's the revenue that we're trying to generate to address those impacts,
Right.
of the people coming into town. So we currently don't do that without, I believe right now, the only ones we've really talked about are those overnight stays.
Okay.
If you get into town 3-4 o'clock and then end up wanting to stay overnight, et cetera, in a location we've worked on.
For accommodations.
And there are, we have Zach as our code enforcement officer, but we also do have parking ambassadors
Right.
from interstate that do patrol.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? I think I've asked all my questions. Okay, so that's it for any more comments. So we'll close the public hearing and it is 7:05. And discussion or ask commissioners for a motion. And I have to say, this is a tough one. I really admire what you guys are doing and, the plan and stuff like that. I just am very concerned about the parking and the appearance of everything, the screening and stuff like that. You guys as business owners seem like you're gonna be spot on and do it. I guess one of my concerns is when it carries on to the next person.
It's not gonna carry on.
Plan is to purchase.
Yeah, we've asked Santiago for an option to purchase, so we're still working through that, but.
But you're gonna be very
long-term-
limited on space with growing your business also due to the parking and due to running the buses. And now you got me saying buses, the vans back and forth.
Everybody likes buses.
Yeah.
What I'm sort of banking on is the fact that we have so many pending options sitting on the table or potentially forthcoming that start to address additional spaces with these garages potentially coming in.
True.
And I mean, I would understand how you'd be hedging that bet. I mean, the whole thing's fixing to blow, as far as I can tell. I mean, I feel like that, maybe I'm wrong, but at this point, somebody's gonna have a parking structure somewhere.
Yeah,
So we're gonna have more parking than we need.
I guess I do have a
No,
question.
that's never gonna
That's
happen.
never gonna.
Okay, I guess I do have a question for staff. So we're doing the minor street market for the summer. Is it gonna be closed both directions again? Okay, so people are gonna come this way and turn right here on this side, where that is a lot of traffic. That's a lot of cars. And then your vans would pull in here, so then when your vans pulled out, they would go right.
Forward, they
Straight.
would go straight across. To
Past the gym
Colorado.
shop.
Yeah, straight to Colorado and
Gotcha.
then either turn
Straight
right or
across.
left.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely not gonna drive back. Well, actually, we'll always be turning right. Because we'll always be going back to get our trailers to go to the next spot.
Right,
We'll
so
go
you wouldn't be
straight
going
across.
right.
But you're not gonna be going through town.
No.
No, we're gonna go straight to Colorado and then turn right. So we won't go, I don't know, we won't go down Minor Street.
Yeah, you won't be turning
So
going
it's
this
doing
way. Your
speed
vans
bumps.
will be going out that way and the other cars are coming this way.
Not fun.
So what you have before you is, there is a group of conditions. If it was approved, and this is, upon approval, it does go to city council and then you're gonna go through this all again with city council. One of the things on the conditions, I think in the conditions, it needs to, and it might, address no vans with trailers ever pulling in here. Is that in here?
You are always able to add a condition.
Right, okay,
So
so
if you
it's
feel
not
it's
worded
not-
in here.
If you feel that my wording is either insufficient or it's not in there, then by all means, feel free to add a.
I guess that I would like it as a condition on its own that no vans with trailers. No vans, no buses. Since this is gonna stay here for a while. No vans, no buses, no vans with trailers. No vehicles with trailers
There we go.
Can enter the lot.
can enter or buses enter the lot. Thank you. No vehicles, so that covers, the future. No, you can ask questions, I think.
Yeah.
I think the sticking point here, because we're all so familiar with this lot, is the concern, not of your use of the lot, but just what we know takes place in the lot. Does it make sense to I don't even know if this is possible, to ask your customers to back their cars in when they're parking their cars. So the pullout is easier when they leave.
I know you see some people trying to back up in town, that might be pretty scary.
Yeah.
It's funny, I just
They gotta
passed,
back up anyway to get out, is what I'm saying.
I just passed the business in Denver this weekend that they had signs up that everyone had to park diagonal back in. It was the only way to park. in the
Right,
property.
because at
Oh,
this
wow.
point,
It was interesting.
logistically, I've seen it, and logistically, it might facilitate a smoother operation of the parking lot use.
See, now, I think
But,
that on the city side of parking than theirs, because theirs
True.
is straight in, where all you gotta do, I mean, that's easy to back out. You get really tight.
It's the
It's
city
not that
side
it's
that's,
tight, you get very
is
disoriented when you're backing out at an angle, especially if it's dark
Very
after our
weird,
meetings, you,
very
and then you gotta loop around.
you're right, the city side should be back in.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, but
Anyway,
anyway.
The only downfall to that is in normal circumstances, because I've seen the same, is normally it's a pull through scenario.
Right.
And then you're able to back in.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that the city's striping and lot is a little different.
And that might be something to look at in the future, is restriping it where it's straight in.
I think, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the rationale behind it was because of exactly where the property line is, making sure that we were able to get 6 spaces
Yep.
in.
I would say so.
Yeah. This allowed us to do that.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I think we're all going in the same direction, aren't we? The alternative?
I would make a motion to approve the alternative staff recommendation. Is that enough, or do I need to read all of it?
You need to read it,
All of
and
it,
then,
all the conditions and the
And
edit.
then they have the no
yes,
trailer thing.
and then
Okay.
add, if there's any other conditions, we have discussion after you read through it, and it's seconded, and then we
Okay.
can read through it.
I would make a motion to recommend the alternative staff recommendations, including all of the conditions. No rafts, boats, inflatables, patrons, or employees of any rafting operation shall be allowed to enter or exit Clear Creek at this location. No housing, camping, or overnight residential use related to rafting operation of any type may occur on the property. This restriction does not apply to the lower level of the existing building on the property as it pertains to an existing residential unit. All loading and unloading rafts, vans, patrons, et cetera, for any rafting operation to occur completely within the property and not on Minor Street. There will be no backing onto Minor Street by rafts, raft buses, vans, or patrons. All storage shall be within the existing building or within the fenced-in area. Trailers are not permitted to be stored on the site. No vehicles with trailers may enter the lot.
If you do that just a little bit quicker.
I was trying.
I know you were.
I'll
I
say
was
it.
trying.
You're doing this every time.
Oh, no.
From now on.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, now discussion. Do we have any other conditions? I don't know if this is something able, but as far as, I don't know how to word it, the curb appeal of keeping it up, well, I would think your property is, I'm thinking trash, people loitering, you know, the hanging of the suits and stuff, that's all gonna be in the enclosed area and stuff.
Correct.
I guess the policing of the appearance of the place. No, I'm okay with the conditions.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, because of the next person that may own the business. You know,
Let's not look that far ahead.
And I would think that because of the restrictions of no boats here, no,
yeah.
that might keep the next person from coming.
Okay, I should have thought this as a question. Can you, in a condition, put that if the ownership changes,
Unfortunately.
you know what I'm thinking, that
I-
it voids out the
I do.
special use permit?
And that's oftentimes something that we would like to pursue, but unfortunately, it's not something that, to my knowledge, we can.
Okay, roll call,
Cindy Olson,
yes.
Don Reimer,
That's a tough one, and I guess you convinced me. I was kind of against it when I walked in, but I'm gonna have to say yes too.
Jordan Hudson,
Yes.
Chuck Howard,
Yes.
Ursula Crucially, Tracy Stokes.
Yes.
And
The motion passes.
Yeah.
Congratulations, but now you have to go to city council.
Yeah.
And if you thought we were tough.
Monday.
Oh, is this coming Monday?
Yeah.
Do I
it's
need
a
to
quick
like talk to
turnaround.
you about any prep work or anything?
Um,
I'm sorry.
you're more than welcome to talk with me about any prep work.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if we want to talk about the site plan a little bit more. I know that we, just didn't have the time to. But yeah, I will turn in, just so you know,
Uh-huh.
7 Monday.
yeah, I have to turn in
And
my report tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
So I probably won't make a lot.
Thank you.
changes to the report.
We're really excited.
Cover
This
sheet
is gonna be great.
that talks
Okay.
about the planning commission's action.
It's gonna be a lot.
So that's why.
Everybody know what
Always a
you're
problem to
having.
do this on Thursday. Every
Yeah,
Thursday. Right.
What's his
I have
name?
another question for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, we've got to continue our meeting, but,
Certainly.
do you guys have the e-bikes already?
We've got one. They're making them, they're actually being made, down on Sixth and Federal, local company, Patty Bikes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're, well, he's got more. They're about half done now.
Okay.
We're gonna
Trying to
start
do
out.
as much as possible local, so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
to find people.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, yeah,
What else is on the
I'll be available.
Overview of all
The monthly
this, all
report.
the junk in the truck. Yeah, it'll just a few more minutes.
Your road center phone number, so. I answer everything.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Excited about that.
Okay, we have one more item on the agenda. Do you want to go through that?
Yeah, it's,
Just touch base on it, and I'm sure we all read through it.
just the standard monthly report, which, was lacking last month, but, we do have one for you this month. So I did want to provide you with an update. I do like to do this, after an item comes before you. I'd like to try to follow up and let you know how it proceeded through city council. I have a feeling most of you are aware, but I still like to try to do that. So the city council did vote to approve the I guess the new name is going to be the Field House, which is the development on the former Gold Digger Field.
Yeah.
So we are currently working with that applicant to tighten up their, finalize their plan sets and then work towards permitting.
I
So-
listened to the meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. I know that's been a little while ago since I didn't have a report. I
The council meeting.
didn't provide that earlier. Habitat for Humanity is in the process of finalizing their administrative plans, which will the approval that they acquired also came with a condition that they go through this administrative planning process. So they're finalizing that. And then they're looking to submit construction drawings here in the near future as well. So just a brief update there. 2802 Colorado Boulevard, which is the gas station. Staff is currently working with a developer on the potential for residential use on that site.
What is this one?
Actually, it's car wash.
I'm sorry, did I say?
Gas
I
station.
keep doing that. I
Yeah, that's,
apologize.
okay, that's
The
where
car
I'm like,
wash, yes,
God.
the car wash. So, they're trying to work out a plan to keep the car wash as well. So it's a little unique and, they might end up, going to the variance board in the near future for a few items and then working through the FDP process. So that you might see that in the future here.
Isn't there a lot that goes with that the city council doesn't really have a say in as far as narrowing the stream and filling up that bank?
I'm sorry,
To fill in all of that land behind where the car wash is.
okay,
There's always been a sticking point from anybody developing that and also down behind Smoking Yards.
okay.
Now, all of a sudden, it seems that these people come into town and stuff just disappeared?
So one of the variances would be to allow for parking in that lower area. I did notice, and I'm more than happy to take some institutional knowledge. So I did notice that the River Bend development does have a lower parking area as well.
That's true, but it had already.
Oh, it
See,
did.
River Bend could not fill that land up,
Okay.
go out.
But is
towards-
that their, Chuck, is that their thought? Does it drop down back behind the paving of
It
where
drops
the
down,
vacuums
but-
are? Is that
In
where you're
all the
talking?
years that Bob had it, he could never be allowed to develop it.
Okay. No, that's good to know. In the code research I've done, it talks about 30-foot setback from the floodplain line. And so that's what we've been operating on, and that's what they are proposing, one of the items that they're proposing a variance in regards to.
No, that won't come to us.
No, that would be variance board.
No, I meant the whole plan won't come to us, will it?
The FDP may come before you. I have to double check that, but I believe the FDP would come before planning commission and city council.
Just another question on behind Eric's and where Kim plans on building this motel.
Yeah.
Has anything came to the city about that?
So the owner of that property currently is looking to do an administrative plat on the sites and then work through the site planning effort for the building. So currently we just have a very rough concept plan on the proposed hotel.
This has
Which
been
one is that
10
one?
years that he's been going to do this.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So by, in another 10, if he gets to it, maybe we'll still.
Oh, that one.
Okay.
Okay,
Like I said, I appreciate the
I just,
institutional knowledge,
you know,
so thank you.
to get this information and you wonder where it came from.
No, like I said, I appreciate it. Sometimes digging through the records, you don't quite get all of the
Anytime we
story.
can help Jared, yes.
Yeah, right.
One other
Yeah.
quick question. There needs to be a crosswalk in front of the Elks Club. With nice little poles. There's no crosswalk. So I've come down there, not speeding, but seen people walk out in the middle of the street and there's no provision for, to slow the cars down except the people.
I cross there all the time, yeah, I noticed there was no crosswalk there either. There's several further down, but there's nothing there.
Walk to the west as well, or east, sorry, walk to the east as well.
Yeah.
So these guys should bring this up to council.
Or, yeah, and I'm happy to take a look at it. Oftentimes we do crosswalks in association with stop signs. And so when there
Yeah, there's
isn't a
nothing
stop
there.
sign, oftentimes it's a little more challenging to meet warrants, but I could talk about it with senior staff. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because down across from the bank, there is one, and then there's curb cuts in front of the bed and breakfast, but there's no crosswalk there or at the Elks. It's true.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice that.
Yeah, somebody walked out and Jim's on the phone, blah, 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 blah. Once it woke up, looks at me and starts yelling.
I do know that that the city did have a traffic engineer take a look at that area for the potential of a stop sign, and they did find that it wasn't warranted.
No, I wouldn't think a stop sign, just a
Like
crosswalk.
Just a
Yeah,
crosswalk,
yeah.
mark.
And as long as you're gonna bring up the crosswalk thing, the paid parking out here, for weekends. And then there's no signage for paid parking by the rock shop there.
Okay,
Just if you're adding that to the list. I've noticed she puts out a cardboard sign that says this is paid parking in the summer. Because I think people park there and there's no signage that shows that it is paid parking.
I think on that side of the street, Colorado Boulevard, it says residential, I think.
No, I meant on her
I
side.
know, but on her side, but on that side, there's a little sign towards the Colorado Boulevard part, pointing our direction that says residential because she lives there.
Right?
And I think that was put residential because Marge lives there. So I think that she's reminding people it's paid because they monitor it. So I think that that's paid, and
I think that's what I mean. It is
Yeah,
paid, but
right.
there needs to be signage so people, when they park there, they know it's paid parking.
That's, yeah.
Well, they have that one, and I think it says it's blocked, but it's just so hard with signs, but I'm 98% sure that this lot is paid on the weekends and after hours. 98% sure already.
Oh, that's-
We can find out.
Yeah,
I'll start
I
parking
will.
here.
But-
Yeah, we, one of the reasons why we have plans to add some more signage, change some signage.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why is because we are in the process of changing the parking signage. And we haven't quite finalized the design of it yet, but I think we are leaning towards more of a blue motif because it's what you normally look for in other locations,
Informational
rather than the
For
yellow.
parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now you
Informational
see
is
the,
blue.
yeah,
We use that in the ski industry too. Informational
Okay.
signs are blue. Yeah.
okay, excellent.
I just wanted to add just one thing quickly about the crosswalk across from the Elks. I think it's noteworthy of consideration because I'm not sure we ever had a 100% accurate head count on the occupancy in the lodge. I think it was always way up in the air. And now we do know, I had a construction tour of the facility and I think he said 10 or 12 verified rooms, as well as the potential for reasonably large group gatherings in there, maybe up to 50 to 75 people. And so because of the verified potential in traffic, I feel like it would be noteworthy of consideration to create that safety because we're increasing the amount of activity on that property there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the thought that, something changes and you have to,
Right.
assess it. So, excellent.
Okay, you were on.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Not to,
Sorry to interrupt.
yeah, no worries. B Camp, we're looking towards, a soft opening on the cleanup day, which is, the 21st. So, that would, the trail all the way, the 4 mile trail, which is currently just going to be a hiking trail. In the future, we do intend for it to be an uphill biking trail as well. But then once you get up, you'll branch onto the downhill trails. So that will be separated. We're currently seeking funding for downhill portions. We do have a grant application in to GoCo currently, so we're hoping for that. But yes, with that trail will open to residents and more or less to the public. We're not really restricting it, but we're trying to give residents a heads up first. That'll open on the 21st. As I mentioned, that's in conjunction with the city cleanup. Thank you, city cleanup, which will occur the 21st in the morning. So
Is that on a Saturday?
it is a Saturday, yes.
Is the city going to provide dumpsters?
We will have some dumpsters, yeah.
For the city cleanup? Is that how they do it now?
They'll put them at CRC Park. I think there's
Right.
two this year. And then people can just bring their stuff, not like refrigerators or TVs or mattresses and stuff,
We
but
have no paint,
Right.
electronics,
Right.
or appliances.
Are they still doing the pickup and then leaving bags along the road?
I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've heard of coupons for food and drink. So they'll go and pick up a bag and then they get a coupon and go pick up and then go get food and drink.
We're still finalizing some of those details, but I do know that we have a line on some dumpsters. Jacob House, we're working with the owner of that location to finalize plans to potentially relocate. We still have some details flowing out there, but hopefully giving that a new home and then acquiring some more parking in the near
So they're
term.
gonna pick up the building and move it?
That is, we're, like I said, finalizing the details, but
That's how this got
that's the
here.
goal, so.
Look at that.
The Jacob House over here?
The old Clinton.
Oh, the old clinic.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you,
I
thank you.
Over
apologize.
here, so
That's
the
the,
empty lot over here.
Where are they thinking of putting it?
The,
there's an empty residential lot between here and the new clinic.
Right, that seems too narrow.
The site plan actually
Doesn't work?
works out pretty well.
Yeah, because I think of that as wider. I mean, I drive by in the morning, I'll love, but that lot seems longer and narrower, but cool.
Yeah. The Historic Preservation Review Commission, I also like to go over kind of what some of the other commissions are doing. In regards to that, we are going through the quadrennial review of our certified local governments. certification by the state, by History Colorado. So we're working with them on having, some additional meetings in the future and hopefully keeping our CLG status, which is the goal. So,
Quadrennial
but every
is,
4 years.
oh,
I believe
okay.
that's the case. I could be, I don't know if I just used.
I was thinking longer, okay, every 4 years, okay.
Yeah, variance board, we did anticipate meeting, however, that has changed. So we may not be anticipating meeting any longer. And then staff inquiries in regards to items for planning and zoning are ongoing. So are there any more questions I can answer?
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting of May 4th, 2022. You don't need the time, do you? 7:31.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Have a good evening, Andy. Thanks.
Andy.